suppose every Hogwarts student eventually has a night like this. Quiet, moon-washed, full of small oddities and warm candlelight. And tonight was mine. My name is Rowan Renly, first year Ravenclaw, and up until about an hour ago, the most exciting thing that had happened to me this term was accidentally transfiguring my quill into a rubber duck during Professor McAlpin's lesson on switching spells. She said it was an impressive amount of enthusiasm, if not accuracy. But tonight was different. It all began with a breeze. Not a cold or frightening one, just a soft, cool whisper that brushed across my face while I was tucked in bed in the Ravenclaw dormitory. The fire was crackling, my blankets were warm, and the whole tower smelled faintly of parchment and tea leaves. I was drifting somewhere between dreaming and waking when the breeze nudged my cheek like a curious ghost. When I opened my eyes, the dormitory window, always sealed tight, was open. Just a bit. Just enough to let the curtains sway. And a tiny silver feather lay on the windowsill. Now I'm a Ravenclaw, so of course my first thought wasn't fear but curiosity. "Where did you come from then?" I murmured, slipping out of bed. The moon hung over the grounds, spreading soft pearly light across everything. The lake glimmered. Hagrid's hut looked like a sleepy lantern. Even the forbidden forest seemed less forbidding. I picked up the feather. It tingled in my fingers, warm like it remembered being part of something alive. And then, right as I turned it over, it gave the tiniest quiver. "All right," I whispered. "That is not normal." Still, it didn't feel dangerous. More like it was trying to get my attention. And I had a feeling, one of those quiet, gentle feelings that seems to rise up from your bones, that I was meant to follow it. So I put on my slippers, blue, fluffy, very sensible, and my warmest dressing gown, and tiptoed out of my dorm. The Ravenclaw common room was calm and candlelit, full of cosy shadows and shelves of books that seemed to hum faintly as I passed. The bronze eagle knocker shimmered in the dark. To my surprise, the feather tugged my hand gently toward the door. "An adventure at midnight," I said softly. "This feels very irresponsible and very Ravenclaw." But the feather kept vibrating, warm and steady, so I slipped out into the corridor. The castle was hushed, as if it were also half asleep. Suits of armour stood with their visors lowered in drowsy silence. A painting of a young witch in green nodded off in her chair. The stone floors felt cool under my slippers. The feather tugged again. Up. We climbed spiralling staircases, drifted through half-lit corridors, and past windows full of moonlight. With the feather guiding me, the castle seemed gentler, quieter, like wandering through a dream stitched in stone. And then we reached a door I'd never seen before. It was small and round, set into the wall like the entrance to a hidden loft. On its centre was a carving of a bird, wings spread, eyes bright, and beneath it, tiny letters that read, "The Aviary Loft. Authorized creatures only." "Well," I murmured, "I'm certainly not a creature, but you." I looked at the feather, which pulsed warmly. "You might count." I touched the feather to the carving, and with a soft click, the door swung open. Inside was a cosy circular room filled with nests of straw, tiny lanterns glowing like fireflies, and gentle flutters of wings from sleeping birds. Owls of all colours snoozed on perches. A few Hogwarts ravens croaked softly in their dreams. The whole place smelled like feathers, warm air, and cedar polish. But at the very centre, perched on a cushion woven of moon-silver threads, was a creature I had never seen. Small, no bigger than my hands, made of feathers that shimmered faintly, as though starlight had settled on them. Its wings were folded around its body like a cloak, and on its head was a gap, just the right size for the tiny silver feather I held. "Oh," I whispered, "you dropped this." The creature lifted its head, sleepy and soft-eyed. It chirped, a quiet, warm sound like wind through leaves. I stepped closer, slow and careful, and gently pressed the feather into place. Light blossomed, not bright, not startling, but warm like the glow of a fireplace on a winter night. The creature straightened, stretching its wings. The soft shimmer around it brightened. "You're beautiful," I breathed. It chirped again, hopping toward me. Then with a gentle rustle, it brushed its beak against my wrist. The warmth that spread through me was like drinking hot cocoa after a snowy walk. Comforting, calm, completely safe. Just then, someone cleared their throat behind me. I spun around. Professor Hawkwell, the Care of Magical Creatures teacher, stood in the doorway in a sleep robe covered in embroidered owls and, oddly, raccoons. She looked surprised but not angry. "Well now," she said softly, "you've found our little moon feather." "Moon feather?" I repeated, glancing at the glowing creature. She nodded. "A rare species of night sprite bird. They sometimes lose feathers when they molt, and one must return it to them before moonset, or they'll spend the rest of the night searching. Poor things get terribly flustered." Moonfeather chirped indignantly at that, as if insisting it had not been flustered at all. Professor Hawkwell smiled. "I see it summoned you. They only call gentle hearts." My face warmed at that. I'm glad I could help." "And you did," she said, placing a comforting hand on my shoulder. "Moonfeathers are peaceful creatures. They choose their helpers carefully. It seems you've made a friend." The moonfeather hopped up onto my palm, light as a breath, and nestled in for a moment before fluttering back to its silver nest. Professor Hawkwell guided me toward the door. "I'll escort you back to your dormitory, but before we go..." She tapped my dressing gown pocket. "Check there." I reached in. Another feather. Not silver this time, but a gentle warm blue, soft and iridescent like a piece of twilight. "A gift," the professor explained. Moon feathers only give those to students they trust. Keep it close. It brings good dreams. I held it carefully, feeling a hush of magic in its softness. Thank you, I whispered, to the professor, to the little bird, to the night itself. We made our way back through the quiet castle. The lanterns flickered softly, the paintings snored. A stair shifted beneath us, but only to bring us closer to Ravenclaw Tower, as though the castle itself approved of my midnight errand. Professor Hawkwell left me at the common room door, smiling. Sleep well, Rowan Renly. I will, I promised. Now I'm back in my bed, tucked under warm blankets. The silver moon has dipped lower, and the window is shut again, but the air still carries a hint of soft night magic. The blue feather rests on my bedside table, glowing faintly like a tiny piece of the sky. And as my eyes begin to grow heavy, I can still feel the warm brush of the moon feather's wings, a gentle reminder that even the quietest night can hold a little adventure, one that ends not with fear or danger, but with friendship, moonlight, and the promise of sweet dreams. Good night.